What is up, guys? I hope you all enjoyed the Capcom Cup X last chance qualifiers this weekend. At the time of this recording, the final match still hasn't occurred, so I'm not sure who's the winner, but I'll just edit in who won that. Alright, quick edit. So, as I was reviewing this footage, I noticed that Problem X actually took the match from Punk, which is funny because what he says later on that I discuss in this video kind of comes back to bite him in the but but congrats to Problem X. Yo, Punk is out for real, actually. But today I want to talk about this divide that I'm noticing within the fighting game community. Now, FGC has become this very broad term that sometimes I feel is used a little bit too much to describe beef that's occurring on Twitter, or some dumb opinion, or maybe not well expressed opinion that is happening on Twitter, or somebody made a YouTube video about it. But around the time of Mortal Kombat 1's launch, I noticed that there was a lot of quote-unquote tension between the two different types of gamers that would usually be involved within the FGC. Now, it also must be noted that we kind of have to define the people in the FGC, and I think it's very easy to define people in the FGC by looking at a person who is very much so involved with the scene. They might be following matches, they might be following players within the FGC, and overall they themselves possibly want to improve. They also probably make content around fighting games. So these types of people are the people that I would consider people in the FGC, and they also like to take part in discussions. Then you have the obvious players of the FGC, the pros, the competitive players, the TOs, the organizers, the people who just want to kind of get the wheels of the fighting game community running. I noticed that upon MK1's release, there was a lot of sometimes fights going on between the casual community and the pro community. In fact, there are a lot of YouTubers who make content essentially running down pro players, saying that pro players somehow managed to ruin MK1, but then the argument comes back to the pro players saying that MK11 was really made for you guys. We had no influence on this. What we wanted, we didn't get. It was really made to cater towards you. You all abandoned the game and left us pro players with this. So there was this tension happening within that community for a bit. And I thought that was really contained within MK1. But this weekend's Capcom Cup X seeding decision, where it was a random lottery-esque decision to see who would be matched up against each other in what particular groups, really exposed a certain mental cognition about, from high people in the fighting game community, and essentially how they viewed certain things relative to newcomers. And I'm sharing this perspective as a newcomer myself, based on what I've seen. So Brian F made several tweets about the fact that essentially he feels like Group F's just a death match and will eliminate some of the better players in Capcom Cup X before we could finally see them shine in a different capacity, and they carry on crazy storylines, that make up the history of the FGC and overall add to the flair and the presentation of the FGC. And he's not wrong, because Group F is really rough. But I also think that we are hyper-focusing on names that we know simply because we want to see storylines preserved. You have Mena RD there, you have Big Bird, you have Ending Walker, we've got Near the Boxer, we've also got Kaba, and it's very unfortunate. You would like to see these high-stake matches come through a bit later, but the truth is, that doesn't take away from the fact that there are other players here that worked just as hard to make it to where they are right now in Capcom Cup X. I saw a lot of talk about the fact that certain people don't care about the regions, and why do so many regions have other chances. We should just focus on the stronger regions. And then you have this attitude really coming out on display. But then these are the same people that want to say that the FGC is very inviting. It's a place where people could come in. We need fresh blood, guys. We need this. We need that. We want to see this. We want to see that. But then when prompted, when you get that opportunity to really express yourself, show us who you are in real life scenarios, we are presented with basically the FGC is made up of these people. We want to continuously see these people play against each other. I don't care about random user 69 from Brazil or wherever he's coming from. Bro, nobody cares about your match. And, I don't think that was the intention behind what Brian tweeted specifically. However, that could be easily interpreted because one, you're using a very poor medium of communication, which is just the written words on Twitter, which people are just naturally angry on Twitter and take everything out of context and run with it. And then you've got a situation where everybody's just upset at what you were trying to communicate and they misinterpreted what you were trying to communicate. But then you have players like Punk, who, for all due respect, deserves to say what he wants. I guess sometimes in the fighting game community, he has proven his worth. He has contributed much to the scene. But then he says stuff like this, which just adds to, what could be a very uninviting message to newcomers, where he says, everyone is just beating around the bush today and saying that they want the old system back, when in reality, everyone just wants the best of the best at our world finals. Capcom Cup is the only finals that is filled with 80% filler matches when you see certain players match up, no diss to the other players. Now, I hate when somebody says something really offensive and they're like, oh, but no offense though. Or they're like basically running you down, and then as Punk says, no diss though, I'm not trying to diss y'all, but y'all matches are filler matches, He says, if this was a tournament of the best, there would be no such thing as Group F death group, since every group would be extremely hard instead of getting random seeded groups where the best can end up together while the weaker players get easier groups and can possibly make it out. Now, here's what I don't really understand about this sentiment. If it is that the seeding did take place in the, regular way, this result is not necessarily different in terms of what we could expect from the random selection. Because he's basically saying that the strong should fight the strong, and then the weak should fight the weak in order for the weak to advance through their stuff. And then they still would get beaten by the strong because the strong is strong, and then we have very nice, strong finals. Maybe he's saying that, or maybe what he thinks will happen is that the strong beat out the strong completely easily, early up in the cut, and then we have the strong versus the weak. But essentially that result would still happen even if you had the other format, because the strong would eliminate the strong, the weak would still eliminate the weak, and then they would rise up. And when you see these comments, it's really disheartening because here you have a top player, pro player expressing that sentiment. And I'm not going to take away anything from Punk in terms of his achievements and what he has done for the community in terms of helping other members establish themselves. I think that he invests in people he believes in, and they themselves get an opportunity to go to these tournaments. But there's this gatekeeping still happening in the FGC. Still, there's the whole idea that there should be more local qualifiers. These online qualifiers are boring because we don't get these storylines, yada, yada, yada. And I think this is very still hypocritical to a certain extent because EVO and all of these events have grown very big, especially from an online perspective. Yes, I get it. The energy at EVO is crazy. I'm going to experience that energy one day. I'm going to experience a big tournament energy. It's amazing. It can't compare it to online. Great. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an online audience that is growing and tuning in, and they're very accustomed with just seeing players fight players. And some of them are not necessarily attached to the personalities of these players. And yes, while they didn't get the opportunity to explore this crazy idea of, you've got to be there in person to feel the energy, there's still a level of involvement that you could feel from an online perspective. And there's still this weird gatekeeping effect where it's like, oh no, we should have more offline qualifiers, despite the fact that the intention of these online qualifiers were to seek out regions who don't necessarily get the ability to travel all the time, new players who don't have the ability to just freely travel as they can. And on top of that, we've headed to a place where rollback is very significantly better, and online systems are getting to a place where they're trying to make the fighting game experience all encompassing and global, yet these sentiments still fly around almost every day, and it really just exposes to me the true thoughts of the FGC and the current divide that we're facing. Now, I don't think this divide is gonna stop you from logging on and playing a game, and that is just in a deeper sense as you get deeper and more entrenched in the fighting game community, that this starts to feel a bit, this is the cool kids club and you don't belong here because, well, you have just not contributed, or we don't really want you because you're random and we want to see these storylines continue. And I think that was not really great to see this weekend. I mean, it's not like it's affecting me mentally. I just wanted to make a video on it because I really thought that it was contained within Mortal Kombat 1, within that NRS community. But now that I've seen it within Street Fighter, and I'm pretty sure that it exists within every fighting game, and every community would have that level of gatekeeping, and obviously they have their pros that they like and who they obviously favor. We can't stop that. We're humans. Bias exists. But I think especially from people who could be looked at as ambassadors of the scene, it's very, it would be very wise of you to be a bit more patient in what you go ahead and tweet. Even though you don't speak for the entire FGC or don't represent all of us, be very careful of what you say and how you want to come across when you make these points. But guys, that's all I want to talk to you today about. Let me know your opinions below. Is the FGC really as inviting as they love to say? They love to claim that, oh guys, we need more players, we need more newcomers, this is what we want to see, this is what we love. But then you turn around and you see certain things that are a bit, just to say the least, amiss, or it's not the best situation as it could have been. But let me know what you guys think below, and I'll see you all in the next video. But until then, stay gaming.